Hello, how we doing? Everybody well? I'm certainly well. So a couple of videos back when I did my 1,000 subscriber video, I mentioned on that about doing a Q&A. I've had a couple of questions, so I thought I would answer them on here now. So probably be a quick, it says a quick video, it'll probably end up being a long video because I'll probably, even though there's only a few questions, I'll probably end up drawing out all the answers for a while. So I've got the questions up here, I'm going to take them in a random order. Hopefully I won't miss, I shouldn't miss any. So apologies if I mispronounce any names on here, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into this. So for the first question here, we're going to take one from both Ross Goodall and Scott the Movie Critic 8576. Hello Ross and Scott. They're both asking a question about my guitars. Now sometimes you can see them in my videos, they're sort of in the background and stuff. They're in my music room downstairs. Now I'll quickly show you them now because I've never shown them, so I'll edit it in about now. So this is the first one here. It's a Schneid Stratocaster. I got it because it was red. It looks a little like, it sort of looked a bit Buddy Holly kind of thing. But yeah, it's just a Schneid. It's nothing fancy. It was only what, maybe 100 quid or something, which I suppose is still a lot of money, but it wasn't like, I know most guitars, like a proper one would be what, 2-3 grand or something. So yeah, there's the first one. So this is the next one, the acoustic. I didn't buy this, I got given this by my brother. This was his first guitar. It's a Martin Smith. It's obviously a very well-known brand of guitar, Martin Smiths. But yeah, it's decent enough. And finally, this is the bass. I like Paul McCartney, you know. So yeah, I mean, this is based, it's sort of taken inspiration from a Fender Jazz, this, but it's obviously not a Fender Jazz. I don't even know what that says, what it's called at the top. But yeah, if I was like properly into playing bass, I'd probably get a Rickenbacker, like what McCartney used to play with Wings and later day Beatles. But yeah, so there's my guitars. Back to me. So there you go. There's my guitars, just sort of cheap ones. But confession time. I'm a fraud. I can't play them. I can't play a thing on them. So yeah, Scott's asking the hardest song I've learned to play on guitar. Any song, I suppose. I've tried. And Ross again is also mentioning about playing a tune. I can't play you a tune because I can't play either the electric guitar, the acoustic guitar, or the bass guitar. I bought these guitars a long time ago with the intention of learning to play them, and I've never learned. So there we go. Sorry about that. To be disappointed, but I can play a little bit of piano, like very, very basic stuff on piano. I haven't got a piano, but I can play a little bit of Yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. Oh, you're right. So I can play a little bit of Yesterday on the piano, but that's about it. But I keep like looking at the guitars and the bass in that room, and I'm like, I wish I could play this. My brother can play guitar. He can play it a lot better than I ever could. In fact, I'll edit in a little bit of video now so you can see my brother playing the guitar. So at least in this video, you are getting to see a tune played by someone that's sort of me, but not me. There you go, there's James playing the guitar. But to be honest, when I'm listening to music sometimes in my music room, I will sit and I'll sort of have those guitars or the bass and I'll just sort of strum on them. It'll sound completely out of tune and like nothing that's actually playing on my record player, but it's just nice sometimes to hold a guitar and strum it. But maybe one day I'll make the effort to actually learn to play them. It's just the patience. I haven't got the patience for things like that. It's like, if I pick a guitar, I want to be able to play it straight away. It's just, yeah. Anyway. So I'm a fraud basically, but thank you for asking anyway about the guitars. So my good friend Ross Goodall has also asked 2 further questions. We'll take on both of those. So he's asked, what is my rarest vinyl? Now, this is a funny one because if I'd done this video a couple of years ago, these albums I'm about to show would have been rare vinyls, but they're not anymore. So I'll hold them up, former rare vinyls. I suppose they're somewhat rare. We've got Flaming Pie, Paul McCartney. This is an original copy, an original vinyl. It's an American copy, $10.99. I paid a little bit more than that. But yeah, obviously this for a long time was virtually impossible to get on vinyl until 2020 when it got re-released as an archive edition. So I do own the archive edition as well, but this is an original copy. It was rare, I suppose, Flaming Pie. It's not a rare album to get on vinyl anymore, but an original copy is still rare, so there you go, there's that one. And the other rare ones, I've just hit my microphone, apologies if the sound's gone a bit funny. Both two albums I've never reviewed on this channel, but I'll take them in one. Both Cortina's albums, Concrete Love and also Anna. Anna, if I'm going to listen to Anna, it'll be by the Beatles because I love that song. But yeah, these two albums, I think, I only found out like a couple of weeks ago, you can now get these on vinyl. But for the longest time, you couldn't. These were very rare. So they must literally just have come out commercial, like to the masses, like being repressed, that's the word I want, recently. So yeah, again, these weren't overly cheap, but they're quite good to have. Again, they're original copies, so they're probably still worth something because they're originals. But otherwise, that's about it for rare vinyls. There's a few like original vinyls that I own that I'm really chuffed with. They're in pretty good nick. I own an original mono copy of a collection of Beatles oldies, which is in really good condition. Magical Mystery Tour EP, I got that, the EP, I've got that, the mono, and it's in like pristine condition, like the book and everything. It's like it's never been touched. And I got it for like a tenner. It was a steal. The record store in Manchester, that was an interesting day because the guy, I don't know if he'd mispriced that Magical Mystery Tour EP, because when I paid a tenner for it, he was suddenly trying to talk me out of buying it, and it wasn't working. But yeah, he was trying to talk me out of buying it. I don't know if it's so he could then go and alter the price. But yeah, there you go. They are my rarest vinyls that I own. And Ross's final question, which is actually his first question, I've done them backwards, is most interesting way you have discovered a band or artist. Now, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I wanted to come up with something that wasn't the Beatles, but unfortunately, it is the Beatles. I have told this story on this channel before, so I'll briefly tell you it again. Basically, the way I got into the Beatles was when I was about 4 or 5. I was in the back of my parents' car, Ford Escort, showing my age. And to further show my age, I found a cassette in the car. And that cassette was the Red Album, 1962 to 1966. And I was just intrigued by it, by the picture on it more than anything. It was, obviously you'll all know it, but it's the Please Please Me cover effectively. And who these 4 people are on the cover, because they all look the same. And my parents, I don't know which one of them it was, even my mum and my dad, obviously, put the cassette on. And Love Me Do came on, obviously, because it's the first song on it. And it just blew my mind. The entire album blew my mind, which I love the fact as well, like the first Beatles song I ever heard was Love Me Do, which was what the first song people back in the 60s would have heard. It does make me quite chuffed, that. But All My Lovin' and 8 Days a Week were the standout songs for me. As a child, I absolutely adored them songs. They are the songs that got me into music, especially All My Lovin'. If I had to pick one, it would be All My Lovin'. To this day, I will probably put a gun against my head. I would hate to say what my favourite song is, but it possibly would be All My Lovin', just because of what it means to us, what it's done. Like, I am the person I am today, arguably, because of that song. Yeah, it means a lot. But then there's other songs I could argue that are my favourite songs. So, yeah. But All My Lovin' is definitely, like, a big song for me. I want to try and say something that isn't the Beatles, but like most bands, I've not really discovered them in an interesting way as such. Like, there's maybe been the odd band like the Dream Machine where I've discovered them because I've seen them supporting other bands, but otherwise there's nothing really that interesting. I mean, Blossoms, I guess, somewhat interesting story. I've never actually told this story, so here we go. I never told it to anybody. But Blossoms, like, when they first got famous with like Charlemagne and stuff like that, I knew the song, I didn't mind it, but I wouldn't say I loved Charlemagne. I still don't think it's their best song. The song that truly got me into Blossoms, so this is about 2018 now, was How Long Will This Last? And yeah, to this day, it's still one of my favourite Blossom songs. Whenever I see them and they do that live, I absolutely, it just means a lot to me, that song. But, so that kind of started getting me into them more, but what truly got me into them, and this is the story I've never told anyone before. Around the time of Cool Like You coming out, so this would be what, sometime 2018, I was seeing a girl.
A girl?
A girl? A girl!
And this was the first time anyone ever did this for me in my life. Said girl, hi Holly, still a friend, but not like a girlfriend or anything, but she's still a friend these days. She sent me a song. She was almost a girlfriend back then, but anyway, that's a different story. She sent me a song by Blossoms, and it was Love Talk, and it was the acoustic version of it, and it just, I can't describe what it did to us, but from that point onwards, I was like, I need to properly get into this band. Like, a girl has just sent me Love Talk by Blossoms, and it's like best, yeah. If you're watching Hall, cheers for that. Long time ago now, we've all moved on since then. But yeah, rambling on here. So yeah, really, it would be the Beatles. It's probably the most interesting story I have to tell. Everything I ever talk about is the bloody Beatles. I wish I could talk about something a bit different for once. Hi, it's me from the future, but by the time you're seeing this, it's the past. But future me here is interrupting past me, which is even further past me. For you watching, I've cocked that up, haven't I? Anyway, basically, when I finished editing this, it suddenly occurred to me, I actually have thought of a good story of how I got into a band. Oasis. How I got into Oasis. It's quite a cool story, this. So what happened was, I've always preferred Noel to Liam, and it's because I got into Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds before I did Oasis. So what happened was 2015, around about the time Chasing Yesterday came out. Obviously before that I knew who Noel Gallagher was, I knew who Oasis was, but I didn't really care for them that much. So, one night, this be what, probably past midnight anyway, I was lying in my bed and I was under the bed sheets and I was on YouTube, and this video came up, a lyric video. It was for The Right Stuff of Chasing Yesterday. And I thought, why the hell has this come up? Let's have a look at this then. Because I was expecting, it's going to be like Wonderwall or something. And if you've ever heard The Right Stuff, you'll know it's about as far from Wonderwall as you can get. And it blew my mind. And to this day, I adore that song. But that was the song that then got me into Noel Gallagher. So then I thought, I need to hear the rest of this album. So I listened then to Chasing Yesterday, and songs like Riverman blew my mind. And yeah, it's a brilliant album. And then I went back and listened to his debut album and thought that was brilliant. And then I finally thought I better go and listen to Oasis. I think Morning Glory was the first album I listened to. And I can remember the first time I listened to Morning Glory, actually, I was in the back of the car. And the first time I heard Champagne Supernova was looking up at the sky. I was looking at it was like a starry night. Obviously, I already knew Wonderwall and Look Back in Anger and stuff like that. But like Champagne Supernova, I don't think I knew that one. So yeah, looking at a starry night was the first time I heard that. And then eventually I went through all the Oasis albums, and eventually, although at that point Liam wasn't doing anything solo, Liam was out the equation. BDI had split up and he was nowhere. So at that point, Noel was the main man and everyone loved Noel and people didn't like Liam. Although at the minute now Oasis are back together, everyone seems to like both of them, which is how it should be, rather than factions and all that. But yeah, that's just a little story of how I got into Oasis. It was listening to Noel Gallagher, The Right Stuff, in bed, late one night, basically. That's how I got into them. So I thought that was quite a cool story to interrupt myself to share. So yeah, there you go. Back to me now with more questions. So the next question that we have got here is from Rob Walker, Let the Music Play. He is asking me the top 3 concerts I've been to. I actually did a video with Ross Goodall earlier this year of the top 10 gigs I've been to at that point. It hasn't actually changed since then. It probably will next year maybe, because I'm going to see Oasis next year twice. Never mentioned that. But top 3 concerts at the minute, it is, the third place would be Blossoms, Band on the Wall in 2022. Reason for that one, it was just like a really small venue. If you've ever been to Band on the Wall in Manchester, you will know how small it is. There can't have been more than, what, 500 people in there. And bear in mind, the time before I'd seen them, so the previous time I'd seen them was in Manchester Arena, which was sold out, what, 20,000? And then the next time I see him is in like a 500 cap venue. It was incredible. It really was, to see Blossoms like in such an intimate venue. Second would be the Rolling Stones. Seen the Stones twice, and I kind of put them just on the same pedestal, so it's 2 for 1 at number 2. So I've seen them 2018 in Edinburgh and 2022 in Liverpool. I would argue that the Edinburgh gig was the better gig. It was a better set list. Charlie was still there, and I was in better company, arguably, because the 2022 gig I was with my now ex-girlfriend. Not that I should let that taint it, but the reason I put them on an even sort of field is because with the 2022 gig I was stood, and I was at one point like 6 foot from Mick Jagger, and Ronnie Wood, which is pretty incredible to see. Keith didn't come down the thing, unfortunately, but I got to be very close to Mick and Ronnie. So yeah, that was incredible. But otherwise, I would argue as a gig, the 2018 one in Edinburgh, even though I was sat up in the stands of Murrayfield, was arguably a better gig. And then the best gig I've ever been to is Paul McCartney, Glasgow, 2018. Simply because I got to be right at the front. I was 6 foot from Paul McCartney. I mean, I'm a Paul McCartney fan. That's never getting topped for me. Yeah, it still makes me speechless that happened. And I'm seeing Paul again, December 24th, so next month at the time of recording this. And I'm sure it'll be good, but it won't be as good as the Glasgow gig, because I got moved to the front. I was originally sat at the back, and some fella from NPL came and moved us to the front. And, you know, to like sing Hey Jude, I'm singing Hey Jude and I'm singing the Na 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 bit, and for an entire portion of that, Paul McCartney was sat at the piano and he was looking me in the eye whilst I sang it back to him, and as I went Hey Jude, etc., he then just sort of nodded and just sort of gave us a wink sort of thing. It was like, Paul McCartney just watched me sing his song back to him. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, put a picture on the screen now. I mean, I took that picture. That is how close I was. I think that's a brilliant picture of Paul McCartney, that. Yeah, so for me, it will always be, I can't see anything ever topping that. Even Oasis next year will not top that for me. But, you know, they're my top 3, but there are other fantastic gigs I've been to. I mean, Liam Gallagher's MTV Unplugged gig in Hull, I was at that gig. That was an incredible gig to be in such a small venue to see that. What other gigs have I been to? Blossoms again, Wythenshawe Park earlier this year, back in August. So far for 2024, that is my gig of the year, Blossoms at Wythenshawe. It was just an incredible gig. Noel Gallagher at the Edinburgh Playhouse was a pretty amazing gig, I would say, although I actually think I've seen him in Dublin as well, the month later, so Dublin 2019. That was an incredible gig as well, because it had Blossoms, Inhaler and DMA supporting him, so as a lineup that was pretty good. But yeah, I've been to a lot of incredible gigs, and it's what I do. I like going to gigs. So yeah, there's my top 3 anyway. Blossoms number 3, Stones number 2, and the good old Paul McCartney of the Beatles at number 1. So the next question, the last question arguably, comes from, and I'm probably going to butcher this, I think it's Kukukukumakun. Yeah, sorry, I butchered that. Is it an I'm the Walrus reference? I don't know. But he sort of said quite a long thing, so I'll read it here. It is quite interesting looking at your retrospective videos that you not only enjoy Beatles music, but you take your look from the Beatles too, hair, etc. You've taken inspiration from With the Beatles black polo shirt to this one where you're wearing Paul McCartney's tank top, which the 1,000 subscriber video I think I did. So if you're talking about inspiration, why not talk about it? Where you get your haircut, where you get your gear, etc. There's more questions, I'll come to the rest of them after this. So yeah, my clothes, my hair, etc. I get my hair cut at the barber shop. I don't really have a specific one these days, because the hairdresser I used to have like my entire life retired not so long ago. Retired, she's only in her 40s, but anyway. She stopped cutting hair basically, so now I'm a bit homeless with hair cuts. But yeah, I mean, it is sort of Beatley, I suppose. Yeah, it's pretty Beatley, you know. So in terms of the clothes, so this is where I'm going to go down a rabbit hole basically, so apologise now. So I started getting more retro style clothing in 2018. It was a flower shirt. It was the very first shirt I ever bought in Next. I should have maybe put it on. I've still got it. If you watch my Foolish Loving Spaces video, the review I did of it back in 2020, the shirt I have on in that video, that is the very first like vintagey bit of clothing I would say I put on. Ironically, that shirt was the first vintage bit of clothing, and whenever I go on a first date with a girl, I seem to have a tendency to always wear that shirt. I don't know if subconsciously I think, well, that was the first piece of vintage clothing I bought. This is the first time I'm meeting this girl, so I shall wear that shirt. That makes more sense in my head. Saying it out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but anyway, so from then on, I just started going down a rabbit hole of buying more and more kind of vintagey looking clothes. Some of it's like, it's not actual vintage stuff, it's like new clothes with a vintage style to them. Some of them is genuinely vintage, but the reason why I did it was I always felt, up until like 2018, so at 20 I was then, so up until I was 20, so the first 20 years of my life, I always felt like I don't like the clothes I wear. And to me, when I look at modern fashion, modern male fashion, like what I see my contemporary peers wearing, it's awful. It's just so dull, it's so boring, it's just, you know, you see lads and they're normally in like sports tops or shorts, and it's like, they just look like, and this is no, I don't mean this is disrespect to anyone, but it just looks like the music video for Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd, where they sort of all go in and they come out as this production, like this mass produced, all looking the same kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like modern male fashion, but there's no colour either. It's all greys and blacks, and about as venturous as it would get would be blue. So I just thought, I don't like this. And like coats as well, like puffer jackets and stuff, I hate them. I hate them with a passion. They're awful things. I mean, you know, I like proper coats, like long coats and stuff. So, because I was a Beatles fan, and I love that, it's not just the Beatles I take inspiration from, it's that entire era of 60s and 70s clothing. I just thought, do that looks better. So a lot of it comes from like it did used to come from Pretty Green, but Pretty Green's gone completely off a cliff now. It's terrible. It's a shadow of what it used to be. So not anymore, but I've still got a lot of old Pretty Green stuff. What else? Some of it will come from Atom Retro, which is like the go-to online shop for retro clothes. If you want new retro inspired clothing, I should say. Then like vintage shops, charity shops, sort of thing. So that's kind of where that all comes from. And at the minute, I'm really into Ringer t-shirts. I'm sort of in the process of replacing all my t-shirts with Ringer t-shirts with like random things like Top of the Pops or New York. I've got the John Lennon New York City, and I've just got a Blossoms Ringer t-shirt from one of the gigs I was at, which says I love the band. What else? I've got other Ringer. I've got a Laurel and Hardy Ringer t-shirt, and yeah, there's loads more I want to get basically. So Ringer t-shirts is where I'm at the minute, but you know, just vintage clothing. It's just the way to go. It's just better. Modern life's rubbish, as Blur brilliantly said. Although arguably when they said it, modern life in the 90s was much better than modern life here today. But there we go. So yeah, basically that's how I got my look. I just don't like modern fashion, and I like all my idols and heroes all wore cool clothes, so if they can do it, why can't I? And naturally, you know, if you're gonna wear colourful clothes or different clothes, shall we say, you get comments off narrow-minded people who probably are just insecure in themselves, which you just learn to take, really. You just think, oh, well, you're a boring bastard, you wearing... Because it's always people in, like, boring modern clothes, basically, who make schneid comments, but hey, it's their loss. Anyway, the rest of what Cuckoo has said, I hope, don't mind me narrowing that. He's asking about the LP sleeves. I'm assuming it's the ones that are behind me when I normally do my videos in my music room. So I'll edit in now to show you those records, what they are, and explain them a little bit. So the records here, this one's Morning Glory, obviously. That's just because I like the album, nothing spectacular there. There's no like big meaning behind it. The one above it is Let It Bleed, obviously, you can see that. That was the first album I ever bought on vinyl. That one in that frame is actually the first vinyl I ever bought, first record, so that's why I've got that one, plus I think it's a cool cover. Next to it is the limited edition Goat's Head Soup that came out. Apologies about the reflection. Yeah, again, I just like the cover. It's, you know, I've got other copies of Goat's Head Soup that I can listen to, so I thought that's quite a cool cover, that. So that's why I put that one in a frame. Sgt. Pepper, hello. I mean, it's just probably the greatest album cover of all time, so yeah, that's why that one's there. Then I've got a Noel Gallagher, Who Built the Moon. This is kind of a 3D cover. It's not actually a record, it's a print. But that's because I think it's a cool cover again. Again, no hidden message in that. I kind of have thought about replacing this one with something else. Possibly they got them two with something else, but I don't know yet. We'll see. Then down below it, I have The Ballad, what is it? The Ballad of Darren, sorry. The Ballad's the song, by Blur. The reason I've got that one in a frame is simply because I like it. I think that's a really cool cover. Apologies about the reflection. Hello, everybody. But yeah, I just think it's a great piece of artwork. That's why that one's there. And then finally, over here, both Blossoms. So I've got a Ribbon Around the Bomb, which is personally signed by the band. That's why that one's framed. And then I've got Gary, again, signed by the band. I've met Blossoms, and when I met them, they signed it. So that's why that one's framed. Plus, I think it's a really cool cover. So yeah, there you go. That's them all. Apologies about the reflection. I don't know. That might help a little bit. I maybe should have done that to begin with. But yeah, there you go. That's all of them. I may get more on the wall yet. We will see. There's space for more. So we'll see what happens. I would quite like to get stuff like Parallel Lines, Born in the USA, etc. up on there, but thing is I've only got one copy of both those albums, so they're all those albums I've got multiple copies of, so yeah, that's why them ones got framed. So there you go, back to me upstairs. So the last part of what he said is, I'm a bit lost with exactly what you're talking about, mate, but I think he's talking about the White Album series, I said, and I mentioned about doing one for Revolver in that video, and he's also mentioned Rubber Soul and Please Please Me with the same concept sort of thing. So I don't know if you're meaning doing like an in-depth track-by-track thing for like Rubber Soul and Please Please Me as well, which is certainly something I would be interested in doing. Like I said, I think Revolver would be the next one I would want to do like that, but then after that it would probably be Rubber Soul. I don't know with Please Please Me if there's enough really to say about each of the tracks to do like a track-by-track thing. I mean, is there a lot you can say about Misery and stuff? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is, but we'll see. Anyway, I think that's all the questions there. Yeah, I don't think I've missed anyone's questions. So, yeah, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed that. If anyone has any more questions, ask them in the comments and I'll reply in the comments. But thank you very much for watching. Once again, thank you very much for 1,000 subscribers. We're at 1,370, I'm guessing that is. Looking at this, I can't properly see it on this screen. But yeah, thank you very much. Genuinely, it does mean the world to me. And yeah, I will see you very soon on a future video. Take care. Goodbye.